Hello, welcome to the last book video of the year. Wow, it's been a long year, hasn't it? And I feel like the more I read, the pickier I get. And I did have a decent amount of books that I didn't like at all this year. But today we're not gonna talk about those, we are gonna talk about the 10 books that I liked the most. They were my favorite and I think the best I read, but of course that's very subjective. But here you are. I assume you want to hear those 10 books, so let's get started. I read about 60 books this year and it wasn't super easy to find these 10, like they weren't all standing out so much to me, but I did find the 10 and I truly stand behind all of those picks. I have divided these books into my own categories and they are just for fun and for nothing else. So the categories are Christian non-fiction, romance, general fiction, historical fiction, adult mystery, children's fiction, reread and YA mystery. So where should we start? Maybe let's start with the best general fiction of the year, which was Maybe Next Time by Seska Major. I think this was the biggest surprise of the year and I mean it the best way possible. Maybe Next Time is an achingly beautiful love story which keeps you with it to the very last sentence. The beginning wasn't so strong and there's a time traveling element which I feel like was introduced to the story a bit like repetitively, but it was easy to forgive these because the story all in all was so great. A woman forgets her anniversary with her husband and then in the evening of that same day something terrible happens. She then finds out that she's stuck in the same day over and over again, and of course she tries to fix everything that she can when she's given the chance. The book had a great message about the things that matter the most, and it does sound really cliche, but it did it in a very fresh way in my opinion. I forgot to say that grab your hot beverage with you if you want to. I have my tea advent calendar and today's white tea with raspberry, I guess. Then the second book, best historical fiction, is Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. Starting the video very strong because this is probably my favorite read of the whole year of 2024. And I really can't believe it because this was on my TBR for a long time and I already started it at one point, probably like 18 months ago or something, and it didn't appeal to me at all. I get most of my reading recommendations from Rachel Catherine and her book club read this book this year, and that was the thing that finally convinced me to give it a proper chance, because the first time I didn't. You know how some books start with these 1 or 2 page long abrupt scenes from kinda the end of the timeline? I get so freaking confused when that happens and I hate books that start that way, such as Lessons in Chemistry, which I obviously didn't hate, but Where the Crawdads Sing is another example of this trope, this style. I don't know if you understand what I mean. So, except for the beginning, I really loved this book. It was both heartbreaking and heartwarming. It was a story of work and passion, and it's really hard to explain well. So if you came to this video for recommendations, please let this be the one you take. My laptop just died. Okay, then third, best adult mystery is Vera Wong's Unsolitified Advice for Murderers by Jesse Tanto. This was such a fun one. Vera Wong was a hilarious old lady who tries to solve a murder mystery herself when she finds a body in her tea shop. The found family in this book was excellent. And I like the way the plot gave you as a reader a chance to figure out what happened yourself. I will probably read this book again next year because there's gonna be a Finnish translation coming out in February, and I already recommended it to some relatives of mine, so maybe I'll have even more refined opinion when I read it in my first language. What's wrong with this laptop? Oh no. Okay, well, let's continue. Next we have Best Children's Fiction. Is this number 4? And that is Moominpappa and the Sea by Tove Jansson. I'm slowly making my way through the original Moomin novels, and I read Moominpappa and the Sea by the Sea in the summer, and that was really special. This book is basically a love letter to the Eastern Sea, and it tells a story of the Moomin family moving into a small island in the sea, on the sea, at the sea. I don't know. Best reread of the year was Harry Potter and The Order of Phoenix by J.K. Rowling. I did my first round of reading Harry Potter in English during last winter, and I loved it so much. I've been a big fan since grabbing Philosopher's Stone, probably already like 15 years ago, and reading it in English gave it another level of nuance. Order of Phoenix was maybe the strongest experience of the reread. I ended up crying in a bus when I was reading it on my way to the university, something that very rarely happens. Just the heartbreaking events and this love that the characters have for each other, and the wisdom within is so unique and so beautiful. I might do another reread on this winter too. I already got the first one. Let me show the one and only right cover of the Philosopher's Stone, in my opinion. This is the 90s one, which I read when I was probably like, what was I? Early teenager or something. I just love it. Okay, then we have the best YA mystery category, and it came as a bit of a surprise to me that I'm apparently now a huge YA mystery girl, because there were so many options for this category that I couldn't narrow it down, so it had to be the top 3 YA mysteries of 2024. And these are Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson, You'll Be the Death of Me by Karen McManus, and Marple 12 New Stories. Firstly, I read finally The Good Girl Guide to Murder and totally fell in love with Pippa's badass bookworm character. The plot was both surprising and believable, which is the best combo, and the love story was really sweet. You'll Be the Death of Me had an excellent timeline, and I loved the dynamic between the 3 main characters. There was humor and romance and suspense and plot twists, the whole package. Marple was the start of my Agatha Christie journey. It's a collection of 12 short stories written by mostly YA authors, I guess, and they gave a great insight on what to expect with the Marple world. Then we have Best Christian Nonfiction, which is Killing Lions by Sam and John Eldridge. I read usually 2 or 3 John Eldridge books over the year, and this was my favorite from this year. The discussion between the father and the son was probably written in male audience in mind, but many of these topics are really significant for any young person. The discussions were around navigating your 20s, studying, getting married, taking your place in the story of God. Such good advice for anybody wrestling with these themes. And lastly, we have the best romance, which goes to Funny Story by Emily Henry. I was a little bit shocked when I found out that Funny Story wasn't even a nominee in the Goodreads Romance Award this year. Like, yeah, I know the book wasn't so well liked that the previous ones of hers, but I still think that that's a little bit harsh, because Funny Story was still very good, right? I agree that there was room for improvement, but I still truly feel like Emily Henry romances are the most quality romances out there at the moment. The dialogue, the setting, the characters, They are all the best in the genre in my opinion, and I did enjoy Funny Story really much. Okay, so those were the 10 of my favorite books of this year. Let me check really quickly that I talked about everyone. Then to wrap up the video, I'm quickly gonna talk about the books I've read in November and December, because this is my last chance to do so, and my quarterly wrap-up thing didn't quite work out this year. Maybe next year, but there's a couple of extra books for you, even though these aren't necessarily the best books of the year, but they are the last books of the year. First, Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. This was a reread. I saw Rachel's book club reading it, and I wanted to give it another go because the first time I read Everything I Know About Love was probably already 3 years ago at this point, which is absolutely insane. And it was equally great as the first time around. So well written, such funny humor, and Dolly just manages to capture a lot of what it's like to grow up as a girl in the Western society today. It's another book that's really hard to sum up, but I truly did like it so much, and I will be rereading it in English in the future. Talking about hard to sum up books, we have Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reid, and the book just discusses so many things that it's really hard to explain. One is a black young babysitter looking for her place in the world, and the other is a white influencer who has the kids that the babysitter is looking after. There are just so many great observations of the millennial life, and also honesty and race and power. The characters are so incredibly well rounded, and I especially love the toddler character Briar. Then I read 4:50 p.m. from Paddington by Agatha Christie. This was my second original Christie book of the year, and it was really fun. I already read the one where Miss Marple takes a holiday in probably Africa, and I knew it was a mistake to start with that one because she's not in her regular realm, and the story is not set in England, which is like, why would somebody write a Marple book which is not set in England? It was the first I got to my hands, but it didn't do any justice to the British cozy mystery ambience, which I feel like is very crucial to a Marple book. I had absolutely no idea where the plot would take me, and many of the twists felt quite random, but that's okay. Miss Marple's character is a classic for a reason. She's so calm and wise and handles even the most difficult and dangerous situations, which with such grace and humor. And I read How to End a Love Story by Anna Wong. I just recently filmed a Reese's book club video, and this is the first of the pics I read after filming that one. So here's me saying for the first time that this book was such a disappointment. It had so much potential, and I really trust Reese's book club's picks so much. But the whole on-off romance was not my cup of tea. I don't like reading smut scenes, so I usually just skip over them. But there were so many in this book, and they started so randomly that it was quite difficult, and I hated that. The couple has a complicated connection from the past, and they made such a big deal out of it, and in the end it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't resolved in a satisfactory way at all. This just, it's a no from me. And then lastly, I haven't finished this one, but I'm in the middle of The Secret History by Donna Tartt. This is the original Finnish translation copy from the 90s, I guess. It's really weird. And the book is weird, so that's that. I'm on the page 202 at the moment, and it's about, well, it's not 600 pages, but something like that. So it's a long book, and I really don't know if I'm gonna finish it. It's really dark. There's humor, sure, but I had no idea what to expect when I went into this, except that it's set in a university, and as this is my last semester or last year at uni, I thought like now or never is my chance to read it, and it's been on my TBR for a long time. So I decided to give it a chance, but I don't know, it's weird. It's probably gonna be quite violent. The protagonist is really insufferable, which I think is the point, but I hate him. But it's written really well, like it's not a modern classic, like without it. So we'll see. It's either gonna be a DNF or I'll finish it before the new year starts. It's 10th of December today as I'm filming this, and I have my master's thesis to return like in a little bit over a week, so I'm head over heels stuck in that one. So there's probably not gonna be much fun reading happening before that, and I'm giving this the chance that it's gonna get in my lifetime, and then I'm gonna start my holiday reads, which I will be discussing next year. So thank you for watching this one. Hopefully you got some recommendations for your 2025 TBR. that sounds weird. And see you probably next year. Happy holidays. Bye.